here. Donald Kent Art,
Okay.
Patriotic together again, once again, for a glorious session of PAL, Patriotic Art Live. Welcome, gang. Great to have you guys back. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very well, Donald. How are you?
Okay.
Um,
Well, I'm
we
doing
are
better.
officially live.
Yes,
Um,
we are.
I just need to double check that I'm live on my stream.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that everything is hunky dory. And so
Yeah.
we've got a number of chat topics to be discussing today,
Mm.
and we are doing a topic called surveillance state.
Yeah.
And based on some of the topics, we're doing talking about 15-minute cities.
Mm.
We're going to be discussing bread in circuses, what that means and how it's relevant to today.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be
Mm-hmm.
discussing some positive things as well, such as health and wellness, some hints and
Mm-hmm.
tips and our experience of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be talking about the good old days. The good old days.
I love those days.
Yes. So I'm sure we've all got a lot of something to say about the good old days.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, welcome. I like volcanoes. Welcome to the chat. And so let's get straight into this.
It's great to have Yiz here. Yiz is having her Monday show, Discordant Dragons, every Monday. And I am pleased to announce that I will be back on the last Monday of this month. The show is always exciting. She runs a great show. It's very entertaining, excellent guests. And the time and effort that she puts into these shows is really, really wonderful. So I
Okay.
strongly urge people to check them out. Just lots of fun. And it goes back and forth. You have like really good intellectual conversation and just fun banter. And then she ends the show off with like funny memes and stuff. So it's
Who's
just
this
really
and
well
what's her name?
done. That's Yiz the Eunuch. She's in the chat right now.
Okay, brilliant.
Yiz, if you want to put your channel link in the chat, people can go to it. Indeed, look forward to having you back. Thank you. That's so sweet.
Awesome.
And yeah, Yiz is definitely one of our big heroes in the whole white positive sphere. So
Yeah, nice
we're
one.
in good company right now.
Cool, cool.
Indeed, indeed.
So yeah, I am
Yeah.
gonna do my typical process. I like to do a few little compositional sketches before,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll flesh one out and probably finish it in the week.
What's your concept? What's your concept for art
Uh,
today on this theme?
the concept, well, we're doing
Yes.
surveillance state, aren't we? So
Right.
that was inspired by the highest vote on the poll, which was
Okay.
15-minute cities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
this is something I've well, what is the artwork that you'll be doing? Like what's the
Oh,
image
I
that
have
you'll be
no
doing?
idea yet, brother.
Oh, okay.
I'm literally I'm just gonna flesh it out now. I'm gonna think. So
Okay, okay.
um,
Well, I'll
let's
let you.
talk about 15-minute cities, and then
Yes.
maybe we can uh, I'll get some inspiration. So my knowledge of
Sure.
15-minute cities
Mm-hmm.
are what the government are trying to push, and
Mm-hmm.
um, it's essentially these cities whereby you can get to the beginning and the end of it within 15 minutes. I think it's pretty that simple, but they're clearly dystopian because there's, I think, high taxes involved and restrictive processes. It's essentially a city-based sort of prison, and
Right.
likely they're gonna start introducing a lot of the sort of Chinese-inspired
Yes, yes, yes. Definitely. Social credit
kind of
scores,
sentiments.
all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
shebang. I think the
Right.
governments of the world are trying to really move towards this. So,
Mm-hmm.
what's your experience of 15-minute cities? I'm pretty sure there's something they're trying to pass in in the states at
Right,
the moment,
right.
right?
I would say that New York City would be the first one to be that. in time, if it's not nuked or something. But
Really?
so we can go from like large to small on this topic. So, Agenda 21 in the United Nations will describe their 2030 agenda to lower the global population.
Wow.
Um, I can't give you the exact number. I don't have it off the top of my head, but they're talking about, you know, how do you lower the population? Think about it, right? Okay, so, you know, uh, it's just a huge topic. So let me kind of unfold it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The whole concept of the elite is to force people out of the countries into the cities, lower the population severely so that they're manageable, and then essentially treat human beings like chickens on a farm, essentially.
Yeah.
To It's a very large part of this is transhumanism. It's to chip people. It's to get. I mean, we're already in a sense chipped through graphene oxide that is either through the vax or it's being sprayed by chemtrails in airplanes. I have like, yeah, the art on is like the pencil works very light, but I have these airplanes spraying chemtrails. I've got these 5G towers that I'll be drawing, and then also these uh, drone
Cool.
cameras. And so the graphene oxide is a type of nanotechnology that can be activated through 5G technology. And essentially what it does is it creates blood clots and kills people. So
Oh
in
wow.
addition to that, it also sterilizes people. So there's different things that can happen. There's tons and tons of information on the internet about, so there's my word for it. Certainly go out and do your own research on it. My rule of thumb is that the more something is censored, the more that's the place you should be looking, or that's the topic you should be looking up. So what is surveillance other than control? So for example, 9/11 kicked off this agenda by by essentially destroying the twin towers, setting us up for this false war so that the Greater Israel Project can take over the Middle East, da da da. And then using it as a kind of excuse, saying like, "Oh well, we have to have all of these systems of surveillance in for your protection." And so
Mm-hmm.
that was the beginning of the end of privacy and liberty in many ways in America. So China is the model for the New World Order. It's quite horrible. Communism, I mean, this is essentially global communism. So they don't call it that, but that's what it is. And it's just using different types of technology to do that. It has a much deeper, darker agenda that I think is, how do I say, it starts to get very esoteric. And I think, again, it would, maybe take people a certain time to research things and get a sense of that other agenda, which is more kind of Gnostic, if you will. It's more about the soul trap and all these other things. So,
Yeah.
me being me, everybody knows me, and my work and my research, things I'm interested in, things I talk about. It's not just a physical prison or a mental political prison, but it's a soul prison in which, and again, this is getting off the radar a bit here, but the idea of reincarnating souls eternally through this kind of 3D global trap. And so there's a tie between the globalist elite and those ancient occult schools. So
Yeah.
I don't, not really able to talk about it in a scholarly academic way, simply because I'm still researching it myself. I know what I think about it, and I can share what I know. But I think it's probably safer to just kind of keep it to the basic facts, I guess, of like, what's
Yeah. I
going
mean,
down.
world domination and I
Yeah.
think dominion over man has always been the the pursuit of, the global elites, and that going back
Mm.
to the sort of Babylonian days, and that it's and well, you clearly still have the Babylonian religions, don't you? So
Right, right, right.
yeah, yeah, it's all coming. I mean, I'm not sure if it will get in full effect, but there's
Right.
definitely
That is
dangers and threats.
that's that's the big question. Is like, will they get away with it? And it's funny because, like, I don't know how to say this, but I feel like one of the most important things is that people are aware of it and that they kind of opt out of it, because for now, there's still a level of free will that we have. We,
Hmm.
like, for example, the whole thing with the jab was that to convince people, they had to scare people into getting it. You could die if you don't get it. Think of your family, blah, 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 blah. We'll take away, you can't fly airplanes, you can't go to sporting events, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I
um,
mean, it was
and
bad,
and
that bad.
it was coercion. It was coercion.
Oh,
So
definitely.
there's two ways to sell these ideas, to sell slavery. One is, you know, won't it be awesome to live in this new modern progressive city where, it's a 15-minute city, and you don't have to, have a car, and you don't have to this and that and da 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 da, eat the bugs.
I think
So
I think people are very turned off though by the idea, and I think
mm, I agree.
with how things panned out with
I
COVID,
agree.
um,
Yeah,
I think people are very skeptical about it.
I agree.
So
I agree.
it's going to be very hard for them. But the way they're clearly bringing about these sort of 15-minute cities, so to speak, is going to be through conflict and
Hmm.
justification for high levels of surveillance, and people
Hmm.
won't feel safe anymore, and that's what they want. And they'll say, "We'll
Right.
protect you. We'll protect you."
Sure.
We need these 15-minute cities. We need them
Yeah.
because, just imagine you're being chased, or some people are after you, and in 15 minutes you're at the one end of the city where Aunt Betty lives, and just
Yeah.
think you'll be able to make it in time, you know, to, to,
Oh
to
God.
Aunt
Yes.
Betty,
Right.
who's going to be there to help you within 15 minutes. You're not going to
Right.
be
Sure.
in some random street that you don't know or not aware of. This is your
Yeah.
safe area, your safe zone. And it's that kind of
Right.
mentality. You can see where they're going to go with it,
Sure. Sure. Sure.
and
I think.
it's
I mean, it's good at least that. And I mean, good in what sense? But after COVID, people really started questioning things, and I think that what was once conspiracy theory became mainstream, and people started understanding, no, there's something afoot here,
mm,
and we have to look it up, research, da 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 da. So um selling it, I think, is going to be a lot harder.
mm-hmm,
How it all plays out, because my my whole thing is like, why sell it? Why not just force it on people? Like, why are they, like, they have the power to do that. It's completely totalitarian, but they do. They do sometimes, in cases where, like, okay, we're taking away the use of your bank account, or in order for you to purchase this thing, you must go through X. I met this nurse recently, and she had to do some kind of test for, I mean, like an academic test for training, and at the when they made her sign up for the test, she was asked to use biometrics, which is like putting her palm print on a screen,
okay,
and recording that. And she's like, "What? Like, why can't I just sign it like people normally do? You sign something, and you da da da." And they wanted to. They're sneaking her biometric information. They're trying to get it, basically. And
mm,
so this is the world we're in. Somebody else was talking about how they were doing, like, online banking and on the phone, they said something to the effect of like, would you like us to record your voice so that next time you call, we'll know exactly who you are and we don't won't have to go through this blah blah blah.
All
And
right.
you know what
Okay.
that is? Again, that's just more biometric, stealing of your information, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when people do the 21 and Me, come
Uh-huh.
on, people, you just gave your DNA to the freaking government, man. You gave it to China essentially, as another aspect of
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
it. So,
I don't think people are aware of stuff like that, are they? I mean,
well, everything's sold to us in such a way as if like, oh, isn't this cool, or it's so fun, or it's modern, or I'm doing this neat thing that's wow. And there's so much more to these things. So the flip side of it, and this is the real hard pill, the bitter pill to take, is that people are going to have to learn to live off grid if they want to sort of survive in the future. And I'm not even talking like crazy, gun nut type stuff. I'm talking about, I don't want my food to be like injected with graphene oxide, or you know what I'm saying? All of these things. I don't want all of my media to be used as sort of surveillance or this or that and the other thing. So the 15-minute cities is essentially the globalist ideal for corralling us into a highly controlled technological environment. Technocracy, I suppose, if you would like to call it. Yeah. It's
yeah,
totally
it definitely seems to be
1980.
moving that way, and it's that classic saying, what's the difference between conspiracy theory and the truth? Say 6 months, and
Right.
it's kind of true, isn't it? Like the way things have panned out, a lot of things are coming to pass, and especially how so many of the governments around the world all acting in unison on this. There has to be some underlying system of control
Yeah.
that is getting everyone to be on board. And what kind of communities have existed over the course of centuries that have built up these sort of cohesive networks that and it probably includes like Freemason secret societies and stuff where they've got a seat at the table and so on. But there are definitely certain groups that are pioneering things like this, and I think it's not like that everyone is in on it. I think things are structured. Society is structured in the way like the
Yes.
pyramid, for example. Like
Right.
the pyramid isn't on the dollar bill for no good reason. It's
Sure.
clearly the system has layers of function from the top down, and there's certain systems built upon systems until the very top, where they have the pinnacle of knowledge and understanding and control, and then it trickles down to the base layers, and every layer, people, institution, or function knows what they need to know.
Yeah.
And so people are just acting to kind of I guess stay stay relevant, or have to, in order to maintain their role within the function.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's sort of, in a sense, how clever the thing works. Like I would say, like if I were, were to talk to, say, a police officer or something, and like explain these things or ask him about it, would he know? Would he be aware of like how the system works, the monetary system, or if I were to talk to a doctor about graphene oxide, would he or she know? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah,
everyone is kind of trapped within their own field, and they're
true.
just
like
fed whatever it
the
is that they're
doctors,
meant to.
they were clearly just passing the buck on, weren't they? Passing on what they've been told. And I don't think doctors are particularly intelligent, to be honest. I think they've just
I know,
got
I know.
I think
I've
they've just
lost.
got a propensity to commit time to learning and regurgitating information.
Well, not
But
only that, there's in the medical field, there's a very strong, what's the word? I don't know, like an indoctrination against natural medicine, against alternative medicine. In my personal, I have medical people in my family. I've been going to
right, okay.
doctors a lot in the past couple of years, unfortunately, and I've shared lots of ideas. Like, oh, I'm taking this supplement, or I did some research on this thing over here. I'm taking fenbendazole right now, for example.
Okay.
There's different things that are not approved by the FDA, and the doctors hate that. And on the other hand, they're like, oh, you need to go on all these meds right now, otherwise you're gonna die. You know,
Hmm.
and
Right.
and you know how there's a lot of people that you get on these meds and it screws you up. I know a woman recently I was talking to about some kind of blood thinner she was on, and she was getting really, really sick from the blood thinner, and she decided, I can't take this anymore. I got to get off. And the doctor said, oh, if you get off it, you'll die.
Oh yeah, I
And then
remember you
she's like,
saying that.
what the? Did I talk about this already?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. I remember you said it before, but yeah,
oh.
it's crazy.
Well, she got off it, and she's not dead, But
Oh,
like,
okay, yeah, 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 yeah.
that's the point I'm making here, is that like they spook you into, not they, all of them. I'm sure there's good doctors. I don't mean to be goofy, but you do have a lot of these shysters out there. They're
Yeah, of
just,
course.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a tough
Mm,
situation.
yeah. So 15-minute cities, will they get it done?
Mm.
I think the way they work is, if the public are putting up a bit of a fight resistance, they just slow the process
Mhm.
down, and then they
That's
just
right.
work slowly on
Yeah,
the next generation and
they've
then the next
they you
generation
you yeah,
until
they've got
eventually,
all the
it's normalized and people are integrated. You know.
they've got all the money and all the time, and it's, if they can't find one way, they'll find another.
Yeah.
And it's how things are. It's just so messed up. That's part of why sort of the information war is so extremely critical. If we can't pass on the knowledge and the information that we have to the next generations, etc., then think about it. Like, they're always trying to cut off our history, try to cut us off from our ancestry. They lie about history. I mean, one of the major textbook companies for school textbooks in America is owned by an ex-Mossad agent. you know,
Right.
I mean, I I have the details. This is, again, one of those things you can just look up. He's related to I can't ever pronounce her first name. That woman Maxwell. She was Epstein's lover.
Yeah,
Chris,
yeah, I know what
Chris,
you mean.
Chris Lane, Greasy Lane, or I don't know her. Anyway, but it's just like, it's all connected. Everything's connected.
Yeah, it is. It's
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the image I'm working on here. So this is a type of an AI alien robot type creature that
yeah,
I,
I'm
I
getting
just
that vibe.
designed.
I'm getting that vibe.
Yeah, it's not meant to be like a holy thing, but rather a demonic creature. The moon over the head has a type of a halo sort of quality, but people who are plugged into Gnosticism, the soul trap, esotericism, in which people are understanding how to escape reincarnation and these things, they're gonna recognize the moon as a very specific symbol. It's tied into oh, this entire situation of Earth being a prison planet. This also goes into the UFO world as well. There's a lot of high profile guys in the UFO sphere that are kind of well known out there if you research this.
Okay.
And for example, this guy named Bob Lazar, Lazar. Anybody can look him up. He worked on the Area 51 backwards engineering UFO technology for the government. And one of the things that he talks about, that the Greys refer to us as containers.
Really, containers. For like possession. You
we're
see,
called no, no, let me finish. So
okay.
what do we contain? We contain a soul that is reincarnated back into this planet, eternally, and so it's a kind of prison planet from that perspective as well as many other perspectives.
Okay.
So again, I know the average person tuning into this is going to be like, this dude is off his rocker. Like I know that, I get that, but I will remind you, in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. I
Yeah.
I I was out clubbing this weekend, and I kind of, I know there was this liberal dude who, like a city, this guy would be the perfect candidate for a 15-minute city. He was like super liberal, urban dweller type guy, and he wanted to talk with me and stuff. And I'm in this, it's a situation where you nod and smile and kind of like, look, I don't want to ruin your day, like I don't want to engage in a political conversation with you. You're a complete libtard. But
Yeah.
he was just, the way that he was talking was to, there was all this psychological gaming going on, this sort of like verbal psychological gaming where he was trying to constantly virtue signal me into agreeing with him on everything.
Okay. Interesting.
And I'm like, I haven't really been in touch with like real hardcore liberals. I don't really, those aren't the circles I run with.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just had this kind of random conversation with this dude at the club, and he's trying to figure me out and ask me all kinds of questions.
Does he know that you're a nationalist?
No.
Okay.
his,
So what?
his head would explode if he knew who I am.
I think maybe
Like,
I think leftists, far especially far leftists. I think they have like a nose for sort of masculinity.
oh, big
They-
time,
it's like,
massive, massive.
he's not one of us. Actually, they wouldn't
Yeah,
have a deep voice like that, would they? He's not one of us.
well, like he runs. This is the most I'll say about it. He runs a hair salon. So what do you know?
Oh right, yeah.
But
yeah.
and
Is it
he's
like
not
he's
not a
poodle
fruitcake.
perm?
No, he's not like a fruity tooty guy. But
Ah,
like his girlfriend was all over me, and that was very awkward. And but whatever. I mean, not like I reciprocated it, but it's just weird stuff. Anyway, point I'm trying to make is that this is the kind of person that the elite are trying to cultivate. They want people to be the prison guards for each other,
yeah,
and
definitely.
it's
Well,
this what
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say,
Anyway,
it's a classic 1984, isn't it? I mean,
massive, man.
when you watch
you
that
nailed
film
it.
and the book, and
I people should go back and watch that film. It's a phenomenal film with William Hurt.
yeah,
Phenomenal. It's so well made. Of course, it's disturbing, which it should be, right? Of course, right? But just the culture of how everyone kind of goes along with, like, yeah, isn't it great that we are in blah 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 blah. They're just constantly checking on each other as if like you have to agree harder. And in China, for example, there are people that are, I don't know that they're paid, but they do get a higher credit social score for turning in their neighbors.
wow,
And yeah, that's for real. I've seen reports on this. They're kind of like these sort of like spinster type old women that walk around the neighborhood, and they kind of check in on everybody to see who's doing what and saying what, and they will report you. And in worst case scenario, you could be arrested, and kind of sent off to a gulag, a Chinese gulag.
yeah.
You just disappear. And what they do is they harvest your organs. Like you're screwed. You're literally done. Yeah, like, I mean, think about it. Like, they treat their own citizens like cattle. They're like, oh, okay, this guy's a political prisoner, chop him up, and like sell his organs for whatever. That's dark,
Yeah.
man. That is,
No,
but it's
I
totally
know.
real.
I mean, there's some personal stuff I'd like to talk about, but maybe another time.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why. Well, I'll say I won't discuss it for long, but obviously, as a married couple trying, there's options for help from, like,
Mm.
from institutions like IVF and stuff, and
Okay.
it's an option for us while we're trying.
Okay.
And at first we was kind of open for it, but over a period of time we kind of started to get a little bit kind of cold feet towards it. I started seeing loads of adverts from like these clinics that are sort of pro LGBT and literally
Oh yeah,
focusing
yeah, yeah.
on them as their sort of almost like primary audience. And I'm like, no, they're focusing, they're basically taking heterosexual couples to
Yeah.
get life forms, embryos and stuff. And then you look at the business model. I went to lots of meetings and that. Look at the business. It is literally a business. It's just a full-on
Yeah.
business.
Yep.
And you know, if you can't pay, then you know obviously it goes into frozen. And then you have to choose. They either get discarded of. I mean, heaven knows where they discard them, how they discard them, and then there's the ethical issues. I believe that it's abortion. If you've got life, an embryo, that's life.
Yeah.
It's like
Sure.
abortion in a petri dish for me. And
Sure.
so there's all these ethical considerations, and I just
Oh, yeah.
really didn't trust it. And
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
it's one of them things. It's on the subject of organ harvesting. It's like, well, you know, would you really? Can you imagine like your life and then kind of without your knowledge and consent, some black underground market, your
Right.
child potentially that you'll never know, kind of just being birthed either to some underground pedophile ring or for organs that are just going to
Yeah.
serve
Yeah.
some global
Yeah.
billionaire.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I think my conscience, I'd have a healthier life, and the health repercussions with, you know, what it can do to mothers and stuff. It's a dark industry, I think, and
Very.
you know,
Very.
it's something that we've really been kind of thinking twice about and likely. You know. But anyway, I don't want to go on too much about that. But yeah, there are many troubling industries out there and
Indeed.
stuff.
Yeah.
Talk briefly about my artwork quickly.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get the levels, the lighting on this. The idea is this dystopian city.
Okay.
I've been spending most time since on this, and I'm just trying to get the initial reads on here. And this guy, he's had enough, and he's climbed high up, and he's looking to do a jump. He's climbed high up, and the light is shining towards him, and
Okay.
yeah, and it's just I'm just trying to portray a dystopian future city that might
Right.
be you know, yeah, I just wanted to do a nice environment this for this piece, and
It
that's
kind of.
and that's that. You can see. What do you think?
Let me take. Yeah, if you could zoom in a little bit better, that would help me to see.
I mean, it's not very it's not. There's not much detail there, but you can kind of get an idea of a.
It's a nice. Yeah, I like the angle, the angle of approach you're taking.
Yeah,
with that.
and you'd
It's
have
nice.
like the city lights down here, and so on.
Yeah.
A 15-minute city, and you know, just really try and utilize the value structure of the blacks, the darks, and
Now imagine what we could do with like our knowledge and technology that would help people instead of do these things. You know, I mean, it's maddening to me to think about like that's sort of like they say in the comic books. You know, if this technology were to fall in the wrong hands, you know, and it's fallen in the wrong fucking hands, you know. Like things, yeah, it's quite serious. People don't even know. I spend so much time researching this stuff, and it's not like I'm sitting around 12 hours a day, you know, on the computer. Rather, you know, once you know where the channels are, once you know kind of where to look, there's other resources in that community, and then I'm playing a lot of it while I'm in the car or I'm doing some work around the house, or you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
So I just feel like, there's no reason why people can't do that. And that actually swings back to the topic of that conversation with the liberal, is that I sort of tried to have something of a conversation with him, because he kept trying to frame everything as like, oh, well, that's your opinion. And I'm like, no, like facts are not opinions. And like, he selectively would not hear things that I had to say,
Yeah, yeah.
and would like kind of talk over me or repeat over me, so that he didn't have to acknowledge all of these things. Like, he had the intellect of a 10-year-old. It
Well, they
was
don't
like
want facts, do they? I watched a video
demented.
with who was it?
Mhm.
Russell Brand. I mean, he's a little bit
Yeah,
obviously, middle of the road type,
yeah,
eccentric
yeah, yeah,
type
yeah,
dude,
yeah,
but he's
yeah,
I think he serves a purpose for a certain niche group of people,
sure.
kind of exposing them, showing them facts, and talking about important
Hmm.
topics for a
It,
certain group.
right.
And
If he's not
he was
controlled
yeah,
opposition,
he was
but yeah.
reeling off some facts to what's his Bill Maher, and there was the video showed Bill Maher. He obviously thought that he was off camera or something, but he was
Hmm.
listening and he was like rolling his eyes at these facts, and they, they don't really want to acknowledge facts. There's always
Hmm.
they've got their
Yeah,
belief system,
yeah.
and that's it. Nothing is going to
You
change the mind.
you really set up what I was going to say, which is that I finally quickly came to the conclusion, and I said it to him, like, you have to understand that the issue here is wanting to know the truth, because once you do, you will have to change, and you don't want to change, and therefore I'm not going to have this conversation with you.
Mm.
Like, that's it. And like Yiz is saying in the chat, there's a lot of great comments in the chat, by the way. I don't mean to just like, you know, steamroll over you guys. There's some good combo here. She's saying that's what it's like dealing with regular people, especially liberal city folk. They're so enslaved to the narrative, it's almost impossible to talk to them about important things. It's as if they're already robots. I think that's why we
Yeah,
call them
yeah.
NPCs.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's just crazy. I don't know. Those people are going to be signing up for 15-minute cities like first.
Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of like the people who would get boosters just to spite like Trump voters. you know, you know what I mean?
I
That's like
reached out to an old friend, and
yeah.
I sent him a link. This was kind of pandemic,
Hmm.
and good friend of mine, really, very liberal though,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
we were good friends for a time because I was a lot more sort of centrist back then and less,
Okay.
racially conscious, and
Yeah.
I guess a lot of the problems in life in society weren't so prevalent, so you didn't really question what was going off so much. But anyway,
Right.
I sent him a video of some doctors, legitimate doctors with credentials, discussing
Yeah.
the problems, and his instant response was like, "Oh, not some none of this anti-vax shit, is it?" And I was like, just
Right.
instantly, I
Right.
was like, I knew I could not be friends with him, or kind of rekindle something anymore just from his
Yeah.
response. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, I thought he was a bit of a free thinker. We was working
Hmm.
together years ago in advertising,
Yeah.
and I thought he'd be a bit more open-minded than that. And he said a comment about he's had 3 jabs already and be taking a 4th booster if it's available. And I just
See,
I
they
actually
do it to
felt bad.
spite
I
us.
I actually felt bad for him because I was like, man,
Well, I know it's not funny really,
yeah,
but like they do it. There's a member of my family who recently admitted, that she was wrong, and she has heart problems now due to it, which is obviously
yeah, it's
horrible.
sad, isn't it? Really, very
Yeah,
sad.
I'm not celebrating that in any way.
No, no,
Um,
I didn't take it as it made
no,
sense.
no, no. But that story actually reminds me of a similar story where I had. This is going back a couple of years now, when I just joined the White Art Collective. Um, I I don't really remember the year. It was during Trump, and I wrote a song for their Christmas song challenge, and I was proud of it. It was a nice little song, and I sent it to a friend of mine. I grew up with this guy. We were in bands together,
Mm.
as a musician. Now I knew he was, liberal leaning, but we were friends since sixth grade, you know, and we've been in bands. We're real close, best friends, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent him the song, and if the song had a white theme in it, you know, like it's, you know, the whole thing, White Art Collective. And he flipped out. He was like, you know, don't send me this political shit. And like he called a mutual friend of ours, guy that we've been in bands with, and he's like, you know, Donald is a racist. Don't talk to him. Cut him
Wow.
off. Like he went out of his way to try to cut my other friends off from me.
Wow, really? I mean,
Wow.
that's just staggering, isn't it? That people will,
Yeah.
you know,
All over that song. And it wasn't, of course, the song. It was that the song was racially conscious. You know, I
right.
mean, damn. You know, so liberalism is totally mind poison. It's absolute mind poison.
Yeah, well, it's part of the state religion, isn't it? Like I think we've mentioned before. You
It's funny
know.
because quite a while I was always like, I never really understood why people would call it a state quote religion, you know. But I would call it a cult. It's religion in the sense that, you know, it has this kind of dogma, sort of. Maybe a state cult, I think, would be perhaps what I would call it better.
Possibly, but I think a religion is essentially a set of beliefs, a set of belief systems. Just because
Mm-hmm.
it's not attached to a certain
Mm-hmm.
sort of divinity, attributed
Mm-hmm.
divinity, I think I would still class it as a religion because it has sort of religious protocols attached to it, set of belief
Mm-hmm.
systems, governance, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you know,
Yeah, you can make a good argument for that. I get it.
and yeah, yeah, and
Wow.
but anyway,
So let
that's
me check.
that.
Gonna have a peek at some of the comments here. Yiz
Sure.
also said, that happened to me too during my journey. People in my life turned against me and destroyed my social life and my career. Oh, that's
Wow.
harsh. That's horrible. Welcome to Charles. Welcome to the chat here. Great to see. Yeah, I'm back, buddy. I'm back. I had some hard times there. I'm still working through a lot of stuff, but I can't stop. And thanks to my good buddy Paul Patriot in the UK, we got this really cool show going on.
It is fun.
Corey says I've been able to talk to people about history, conspiracy, and everything related, but I never feel like it's enough to activate people into any kind of resistance. Now, you're really, really touching a key point here, because this liberal guy, he, I don't know how politics came up in this conversation, but I think he said I don't know. Anyway, he said something like he makes it a point to be absolutely, totally ignorant about politics. Like he totally cuts it all off. Like I don't want to know a single thing. And because anytime anybody says anything about politics, it's always bad. And I'm like, what are you, a little baby or something? Is that, you know, I don't want to. No, I get there's toxicity or this or that, but I'm like, be a man for God's sake, you know, like, you know. And I'm like, well, I'm literally the opposite of you. Like I'm full on hardcore deep into it. And that's where I think the questioning started, you know, like kind of why. And of course he wanted me to somehow confirm his bias, you know, like he didn't want to know why. He wanted me to say something that would like approve him being just a stupid slave, basically, you know. So I was like, look, you know, I mean, I'm out here at the dance club. I'm trying to have a good time. I don't want to have some kind of fight with you, you know. Which I didn't say fight with you. All I said was like, I don't want to ruin your evening, you know.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of, you know, dance your way around these things. But yeah, it's just but this is in normies. It's not just liberals, and that is this whole. You can't change it, so don't try. You can't
Yeah.
change it, so
I
don't
know.
try. And if
My
you're
brother's a
trying,
lot like that.
I'm gonna stop you from trying, because that means I'm not trying and I'm being the lazy loser. Like, so I gotta shut you down. You know, if I can, you know, put your head down. You know, don't ask questions. You know, this kind of. It's just, to me, that's one of the darkest sides of the whole thing that we're dealing with here. But I mean, it does beg the question, how can we change? And so I think this is a thing that we're talking. It fits the theme of today's show, which is to opt out of the 15-minute city, to opt out of the vaccine, the next war, or the chip, or the new economic system, or blah 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 blah. Biometrics.
Yeah,
They're never going to stop, but we don't have to cooperate up until a point, right? I mean, if it gets to the
true.
point where they're coming to your door and they're forcing you at gunpoint,
Well,
then
it's like everyone. I mean, we're all sort of on the train of the system, kind of heading
mm-hmm,
towards the end goal. We're all part of the system currently. We've all got credit cards tied to the system. We all eat from the
mm-hmm,
supermarkets and whatnot. And it's,
mm-hmm.
I mean, at what point do we get off? Because it's going to get progressively harder and harder, unless we all have to act as a collective and just
Yeah.
put, stumbling blocks in front of the government and just stop them getting their way, basically. But so far, we're not collectivizing enough to shape the society we want.
There's definitely some very hard and Fed posty aspects to this topic, that we're always sort of trying to avoid. It's a chess game. If you move this move, then I have to move that, and if you move this, then I have to move that, and we keep being cornered into that choice. At what point is the whole country going to become Ruby Ridge, or some kind of a situation like that? But we don't want that. We're avoiding it, but at the same time, it's on the table. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that the best thing to do is to keep pushing for people to understand the truth, so that we can opt out, we can organize, we can avoid extreme situations. You see what I'm saying? Because but I mean, by that time, people might be so totally brainwashed that they won't even know, what's going on. It's tough to say.
Have you seen that cartoon Wall-E?
Oh yeah, with the robots,
Yeah,
and he's
the
cleaning
fat
up the planet.
robots,
Sure.
and they're just all there, like being herded along.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be something like that. But
yeah, it's and that's predictive programming in a way too, like the idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course, I don't know how. That's actually an interesting question. Like, how far is? I mean, Pixar is part of Disney, so you can't really trust it.
Yeah, just a quick one. I've got two ideas that I've got here. Two very different ideas. Which of you guys would like to see me progress these? If you'd comment in the chat, either chat mine or Donald's. But we've got an idea here which is focused mostly around a sort of a future hybrid person with the cities. This is obviously pitched far into the future. He's sort of being elevated and he looks very awkward, which just suggests the nature of man and an awkward state. And then the city backdrop will be behind him. And then we've got a typical more, I would say a more relatable scene where there's the city in the backdrop. It's very congested, lights, it's a nighttime setting. And then there's the man sort of climbed up to a high point and he's contemplating taking his life. It's clearly that bad. So yeah, if there's any preference, I'll just give it a few minutes and see if people can suggest which way to go with my artwork. And I'll probably finish. I won't finish it all today, but I'll do some for the week. But yeah, it's a very interesting theme, 15-minute cities, and I'm sure that brings us into another topic: bread and circuses. So what's your knowledge of bread and circuses, Donald?
Well, I think that goes back to the Roman Empire, where they were saying the way to stop people from revolt is to keep them happy with bread and circuses, and therefore you had the Roman arena, with the gladiator fights, and they kind of satisfied this sort of entertainment, bloodlust, and blah blah blah, and giving out free bread to people so that you're just
Mhm.
distracting them. To me,
Yeah,
this is what football is. This is why I like rail on sports a lot. But it's way more complex today. It's far
for
far
sure.
more complex. Video games and blah blah blah. They go on and on. And I think as human beings, we have the ability to control our impulses and enjoy things in moderation, but it's every generation it slips a little far deeper and deeper and deeper, and
Hmm.
we're less and less connected to each other and nature and all of these, and God specifically. This is really ultimately a war on God, but again, that's going off the esoteric radar there. So I'll
Yeah, yeah. It's
back out of that.
I mean, bread and circuses. It's yeah, obviously it's taken a different shape and form now. Uh, I like Corey. I like the two, but both are looking good. Yeah, thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Appreciate your opinion. It is
Mm-hmm.
a tough one. They're both interesting compositions. I think.
Yeah.
Just thinking which would be the quickest to do, which would be the easiest. But bread and
And think.
circuses, yeah. Um, it's yeah, they used to give bread as well, also to keep them docile, because obviously
Right.
meat and that strong diet keeps the nation strong, which again is they're trying to, well, they have been influencing the diets
Mm-hmm.
so that people are eating worse foods, mostly focused on sugars. But it's still, I
Mm.
guess, it's still carb based, isn't it? Lack of
Well,
nutrient type
you know,
foods.
carbs turn into sugars, and
Yeah.
that's a whole other topic. But um, yeah, junk food is the main thing. A lot of the food that you get in your basic supermarket is filled with cancer-causing agents.
Hmm.
Um, People, I mean, there's a kind of a trend to read the ingredients and get a sense of like how the sodiums or vitamins and fibers and blah blah blah. That's fine, but all these other chemicals that we can't barely pronounce are actually cancer causing in many cases.
Mm.
So, especially in children's cereals and shit like that. I mean, think about that. How horrible is that? That like feeding this crap to children. God, where did that come from?
Yeah,
What is the and
pretty
then
mad.
notice the little kosher. There's a kosher sign that you guys have to learn what this is. I think it's an A in a circle. You can look it up. There's a website, or rather, there's an app called Kosh Certified. Kosh Kosh Certified, and you can download that app. And when you're shopping, you can check is this food kosher, halal, and if it is, don't freaking buy it, because you're
Mhm.
giving your money to our enemies for them to use against us. But I mean, the government does a good job of that anyway, so I'm not sure your multicolored cereals are really gonna stop that. But still, it's that thing you gotta watch out for. Hey, to my buddy Nollis, I'm glad to have you here in the chat here. Uh, Rome, let's see, Charles just said something here. The Rome comparison is spot on with modern USA. Yeah, people don't like it when I, you know, bad talk sports and stuff, but I think sports are a huge part of
Yeah,
it.
it's one of those. I don't really watch football,
Mhm.
but I do have a soft spot for MMA. I do. I've
Oh,
watched I've watched
that's
MMA since I was like 10. I
oh yeah,
remember going
yeah,
into, we used to have
and
VHS store it was, and
oh,
where they sold
okay,
the main outlet for DVDs,
yeah,
CDs, and stuff like that. And
right.
I remember watching the first, seeing seeing the first episodes, um,
Hmm.
and yeah, it was quite brutal back then as well. As a
Oh
kid, I was
yeah,
watching it,
yeah.
but
I
I
I
kind of
can.
got into it, and yeah, I dropped off. Got boring when there was Royce Gracie with the just constantly hugging, but then they started introducing rounds, and
Yeah, as far as sport goes, watching two men roll around on a mat is not my idea of a good time. But whatever. I'm more into the kind of the kickboxing element of it.
mhm.
That's more entertaining for me, at least, to say. It's nice when you can see somebody who's got like exceptional skills and or strategy and or techniques that are like, oh wow, that was a clever technique, or the way that person applied that technique was really well done. So for people like us in the martial arts, that's kind of the fun of it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
um yeah, but I don't know, it's hit and miss. I'm not hugely a fan of like seeing people just you know be brutal to each
yeah.
other, like cruel to each
I
other.
I know what you mean. I mean, there's the
Yeah.
for example, there's that slap, isn't there? Power slap, and I'm thinking, I mean,
Oh, that, yeah,
there's not
yeah.
even any skill involved in that.
No,
How is
it's
that
ridiculous.
something that's can you can even
A sport.
appreciate it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I just I'm
Right.
baffled. Yeah, that one. But
Well, this is kind of the bread and circus thing that we're talking about here, is just giving people even more brutal, mindless garbage to sort of. That's the thing about the internet, is that how do I say, it's like a drug in the sense that you seem to want or need something harder, and then that gets boring, and then so now you need something harder, and then that gets boring, so now you need some, and so on and so forth, so it's disturbing, I'll say that. But,
yeah, I'm speaking of dystopian AI. I'm gonna plug this into using a image to image input and see what it comes out with,
mhm.
because you can get some good results usually, and I'm being lazy. So I'm gonna try and plug something because I'm gonna have a busy weekend, you see, so I might not get a chance to.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I just sometimes use it for direction as a. I mean, I've got the main composition. It's my idea.
Mm.
If I showed you
Yeah.
some of the stuff that it generated based on my prompt, it
Yeah.
just puts my work to shame anyway. So I don't even want to show it because it's pretty good.
Mm.
Pretty good. The AI can churn out some really awesome stuff, to be honest.
Cool.
Um,
Well.
yeah. So bread and circuses, and so yeah, we obviously we like it there too today. Some of the stuff is so what we've got. We've got sports. We've got the foods in terms of circus. We've got sports and all that type, and it's not terrible to like these sports, but I think it's when they keep you ignorant to the certain facts about what's going off in our
Yeah.
world, when it actually distracts you. I think that's the most well, that's when it becomes problematic, isn't it?
I agree. I guess for me personally, one of the things that I find disturbing about sports today in America is how it's just everything's all the players are black now. Like they're phasing out all these white players. They're like, it's weird. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
weird to live in a world where you can see measurably how you're being erased from the entire cultural narrative.
yeah. Well, we're not
I'm
needed
going to.
anymore. You know,
Our taxes are.
I had a thought actually, and
Yeah.
in the week, and it's kind of stemming from last week's talk,
Mm-hmm.
the topic of AI and that, and I guess it plays into today, especially with bread and circuses, but
Mm-hmm.
AI and what it's doing. I mean, modern Western man has created so much and contributed so much, and
Mm-hmm.
I liken what Google is now to a sort of a database of our conscious mind collectively.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of puts out, you know, our thoughts. Our thoughts are the internet is a network of products, digital based products and things of literature, and it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
encompassed all of our creative collective creativity,
Yeah.
expression, literature, thoughts, and so on. And a
Hmm.
lot of that has been built up, contributed by Western man. And so, with these AI and training models and stuff, it's essentially being trained to be us. So we already are kind of
Hmm.
being absorbed into this artificial mind that is
Hmm.
just becoming a reflection of us. And so that's
Hmm.
why we can be discarded, because our intellect, our ability is kind of just being transferred into the digital ether, if that makes sense. And so you
It's
can get rid of Western man, and you have a snapshot of his mind, his intellect, that could start to create like Western man, albeit it might be somewhat limited.
right. So this is going into some pretty deep territory because why would we do that? Like why
Well,
would why would we
we're not
replace
willingly,
ourselves?
we don't know
And
the end goal is how it's going to turn out. We're there for the bread and circus, right? we're being
well, the other question is who are we? Because like you and I are not doing it. Like this,
no,
if
we're
our people were in charge of such things, my God, we would completely use this technology for other purposes, better purposes. Um, so yeah, I mean, I always think of that Harari guy when this topic comes up. How like the useless eaters will not be necessary, and history is over, and all that kind of Zionist New World Order crap. But
mm,
so Seven Serpents is one of my followers. I'm really glad to see him here. He wrote down the esoteric rabbit hole. Look up how many pre-45 esotericists mention the racial soul, which abruptly stopped around 1950s. I don't know what pre-45 means. Pre-1945, is that what you're talking about? But I would like to hear more about this racial soul. What is this racial soul you speak of? That would be an interesting topic.
racial soul. I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
mentioned before, my understanding of a soul is part of the genome anyway. I think the soul is the emotional states, and I think
One of my questions for New Agers is why does race exist at all? If you always say that, oh, there's one race, the human race, and all this
that's a good
like
voice.
we're all
How did
we're
it
all
go?
one, man. That's this nonsense. I'm like, well, if we're all one, then why don't we all look the same? Why are we not all genetically identical? Because we're clearly
Well,
not. We're
I
clearly
think
not.
we're all part of the same collective hominid group, simply for the fact that we can mate. Um, but we are clearly different species within that group, and you're not gonna you're gonna want to preserve different species. Why is it that we're so focused on preserving species in the wild, in the wild, yet we don't appreciate our own different species?
Hmm.
If you
Well,
truly value multiculturalism, you would value multiracialism as well, and
that's a
understand
good
that they
point.
are best preserved separately. Um, that way, the distinct cultures will flourish um, in line with that individual sort of genome traits of how they express their impulses, their
Mm.
tendencies, their inhibitions, their drives, motives, creativity, the sort of the way they will create music, the way they will create art. All of these things have a play or directly or come from the genetic makeup and how they interact as a people. So, you know, essentially, multicultural comes from multi-race, and I really don't think
Mm.
that the liberal left understand that. They think in so short term, with the carrots in front of their nose, they're being taught to,
Sure.
embrace something which will only be a short-term blip, and the long
Yeah.
term is the exact opposite that they're fighting for. It's just so backwards.
My approach to the topic is different, as always, which is what is the origin of our different DNA? For example, Africans have 19% ancient hominid gene, what they call the ghost gene, because
Yeah.
this hominid goes back so far that it's a mystery, but it's not human. And we have Neanderthal.
Not.
We have 6 or 7% Neanderthal genes
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
Caucasians, and so that's more, in the bio, rather the geological record, so we can see that. There's coming back again, that a lot of cultures say, oh well, our people came from the stars, and it's not just Caucasians. There's people all around the world that say that, Native Americans, Japanese. There's something that it's bizarre and interesting to me that so many cultures say our people came from the stars. It
Mm-hmm.
does kind of beg the question, like, why would people from totally different areas that have never known each other for, tens of thousands of years have this same idea? How could that be? But anyway, I don't know. I can't.
No, I know what you mean
Really.
with the. I think there are different branches to sort of humanity and stuff. I think
Mm.
the. I don't want to get into too much details on it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, we understand, but there are clear differences between racial groups, and
Sure.
we clearly multiculturalism has proved to be a failed
Right.
a failed experiment, and I call it an experiment because it had never really been done with this magnitude before. I think organic migration is totally different to just flooding a nation with peoples.
Yeah, I should probably not talk about that stuff because it's so out there that it kind of distracts a little bit from like the main points, here. But
So anyway, let's the rest of the show. Let's talk about some the good old points of health and wellness and the good old days. We can kind of merge them into two, I guess.
Okay.
What are you doing to improve your health and wellness now? Whether it's mental, physical,
Whew.
what
Boy,
things do you
I'll have to
do as
pause here
priority?
yeah. So, the last couple of years have been pretty rough for me. Uh, I just had some issues come up in my life that were pretty severe. Um, I'm not gonna. It's too personal for me to go into, but I can say definitely that my life was in danger,
Mm-hmm.
and the first thing that occurred to or that happened to me, was something that could be taken care of, and but this situation it developed, it got worse, and it's had blah 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 blah. I don't want to get too deep into my personal health stuff, but suffice to say, I have had to have a radical lifestyle change, and
Yeah.
it's not just diet and medicines and these type of things. It goes much deeper in terms of meditation, in terms of coming to terms with God, faith. These things have played a huge role in the success of my health. And I know that in our materialist world, people don't think like that. And I can only speak for myself, but I've I'm it's so hard to talk about something that I can't talk about. I'm trying to be
Well,
vague
just
and
in
like
general, give some kind of tips,
okay,
pointers on how you go
so
about stuff.
all right, a couple things like what's it called? Intermittent fasting or regular fasting puts the body in a state of, it's kind of a crisis where it's the body feels as if it might be starving, and so it kicks in a lot of your immune system and
Mm-hmm.
sort of health systems in your body that help you heal. And
Yeah.
so I've been doing more of that, and with good success. And not only that, the feeling of just freshness, and
Mm-hmm.
like being kind of more awake and alive in some way. Granted, it hurts, it's a big, like starving and in pain, and then like mentally be like, okay, don't eat, don't eat, don't eat, and on, you know, it's hard to do. It's
Hmm.
very, it takes a lot of brain power, and I don't always succeed, but I always go back, you know, and I start over, you know. And I think the more you do it, the easier it gets. I'll put it that way. I've become somewhat of a nutritionist just because I've had to learn how the body works, and then also, you know me, I'm always looking for alternative methods and da da da, you know, other
Yeah.
ways you know, pills, not pills. I what I should say is like just non-FDA drugs, I guess, that are legal. They're not drugs, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the
There's
most thing I take
yeah.
is sort of aspirins and that. I try not to take too much.
Hmm.
Even if I get gastritis or, acid stomach, there's these
Hmm.
tablets you can take. They're quite good. They're like chalky tablets you eat, and they taste quite nice actually. But I've
Okay.
noticed that I think um, this what's the word? Um, they imbalance uh, your stomach acid. So,
Okay.
it's kind of like they get
So,
you weaned onto it a bit too much.
all right.
I
All
kind of
right.
thought it's
So,
probably best not.
acid is the environment for cancer, and
Right. Okay.
alkaline is anti-cancer. So, there's acidic foods and alkaline foods. And then
Okay.
if I'm sure there's more to it in terms of like, you know, there could be supplements or various, you know, this and that, you know, out there. There's a lot of kind of like internet doctors that have their own channels. I mean, there's tons and tons of these, and you can kind of cruise around and look through some of these things. Some of it I've tried, and I felt like, there really isn't. I'm not getting a benefit from this, and or I found another doctor that contradicted it, and or I share the information with other friends that are, you know, working on their health. See, because you have to understand, like, we're living in an environment that's literally designed to kill us. That
Yeah. Yeah.
there's cancer, like cancer causing agents are everywhere. And there's another thing I can recommend. It's called apple pectin. Now, apple pectin is, they've discovered that um, it treats, I don't say treat, how do I put it? That it counters radiation. So
Okay.
your phone, my phone, everybody's phone gives off radiation. And those like the ear pods that people wear, they've got technology now where they're actually using it to read your mind and stuff. 5G, I know that sounds wacky, but I'm telling you, you
Oh, I
know,
know. I see. One thing I was
it's
surprised is the technology of Wi-Fi. It can
yeah,
act as um,
radar.
a
Yeah,
radar. I mean, that's
yes,
fantastic when you think about it. Well, not say
it's
fantastic
insane.
like it's a good thing. It's
No,
crazy scary,
like like
but
like super.
it's
Yeah.
like, wow. I would never have ever
Hmm.
thought that is how it could be used like that. But it is literally like a sonar. You know, like how a dolphin,
Yes,
I guess, in terms of
I've seen it.
communicates through waves, and it creates this
Correct.
sort of impression through sound, and they
That's
build to
right.
an image through that. So through the waves, the Wi-Fi waves
Hmm.
interacting and bending around objects, they can see those objects like a negative impression, and
Hmm.
essentially just see into everyone's room. And you think about that as a technology that we would have never known exist if they kept shut about it. And it's like
Hmm.
literally they can. It's crazy.
I mean, I've actually seen footage of it and how it works and how it looks, and
Really.
it's yeah. That, I mean, this is what I mean. In the age of information, you know, just
Huh.
get out there and start looking. A lot of it is knowing what questions to ask. You know, question everything. I mean, literally, that is the best thing you can possibly do, is to question every single thing. Everything that is being sold to you as some new cool benefit is in fact a Trojan horse for something else.
Yeah, yeah, more than
So when
likely.
it's like think about, every car has a chip in it that can be tracked by a satellite. What is that but surveillance? You know, oh no, we're going to use that to help you in case you have a car accident and we need to send somebody. So you see, they're always going to talk like that. Yes, they can do those things, duh.
Hmm.
But you know, what was that the intent? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it gives almost like superpowers to the state, and that's the whole. That's everything. It's just increasing the power of the state while decreasing our liberties, rights, privacies, etc. That's
Yeah.
what it's all about. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm conscious
So.
of us moving away from the positive topics, like constant
I'm sorry. I'm
blackpillars
sorry. Yeah,
today.
we're talking about the good
Um,
old days.
yeah, the
Hey.
good old days, the good old days.
All right.
All right. So yeah, what were your good old days, Donald? What
Oh man, that's
you
gonna
know,
take up like
it's
10 more
like
hours
I
because
I,
yeah,
I love the
yeah.
80s. I can look back on some
Okay.
of the 80s stuff, whether they be films, movies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Obviously, I was a big gamer. I know you're not. I used to play on my Nintendo a lot, and
Yeah, I don't hate games. I just don't have time to.
no, no,
But go on.
no. But even as a child, do you not play?
I was into music and
Okay,
reading, and I played a lot outdoors. I lived kind of close to the woods, and we were exploring a lot and hiking a lot. I was never a sporty guy, so I kind of, but no, I mean, my friends had video games, and I would play them at their houses.
okay, right,
But
right.
I never bought it. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know, because
Fair enough.
I like to draw. I drew a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. I
Yeah.
mean, I used to draw a lot. I used to love drawing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't think that one's working. Yes. But yeah, so I everything was just a little bit better, wasn't it? What was the good old days? I used to. I would say my childhood was pretty decent, and one thing
Hmm.
to point out, and I might have said it before, is I grew up in an estate where it wasn't completely like homogenous. For example, I had a lot of I grew up on an estate that was, I don't want to use a geography term, but
Yeah.
it was it was in reference to certain ethnic groups in like it was the land of this ethnic group
Oh,
particularly.
okay.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not gonna use geography terms online, um,
Okay.
or in person. I'm not like that.
Okay. All
but
right.
um, but yeah, I grew up around Sikhs,
Hmm.
Muslims, and we all used to play out on the streets a lot. But I did generally have a good childhood and playing football a lot on the streets.
Okay.
But it was different back then because we still had our culture, and they were seen as guests, and
Yeah.
I guess we didn't really fit into our roles back then. Um, you as a child, it's like, and
Yeah.
I've said it before on stream. There's a Disney film called The Fox and the Hound, and the
Hmm.
little puppy befriends this baby fox, and eventually they go their separate ways. But they grew up together and they were best friends, and then they went their
Mm.
separate ways. And eventually the hound had to hunt the fox because that's who he
Mm.
grew up to be. He was a
Right.
hound,
Right.
and the fox was a
Yeah.
fox, and they
Right.
couldn't be friends for life. And in some ways, it's like that now because Muslims are part of their religion and faith, and their faith has certain expectations of what is to be, and it's following protocol.
Hmm.
You know, uh, and same with us in the West. We you have to preserve your kind. You have an obligation, I believe, to your own. Um, anyway, but yeah, there were some good times. Everything was generally, and is it because we were kids that things were
So
so much better, or
you're okay. You're touching on it. Like, people who are very negative and nihilistic, they'll say, "Oh, that's just because you were a kid and you didn't know any better," and then they always like to shit on you, like rain on your parade, and it's like, dude, just like calm down, relax. Of course there's that, and like there's a biological aspect of a child's developing mind, and wonder and joy and playfulness and all these great things that we're taught not to, that we lose throughout the school system, etc.
hmm,
The truth of it, though, that is specific to this show and this community, is we lived in a homogenous white country.
Yeah, yeah,
We I mean, I
definitely.
know you had, maybe whatever, where you live, something, but the past, our childhood compared to now, my God, I mean, I can't
Yeah,
go anywhere in
exactly.
my community right now without having, XYZ PDQ,
Dangers
and
and
I feel
threats.
I am threatened. I'm clearly threatened by that. I cannot relax, you know. And that's what white flight is people have to move out. And then, like, how many times do you have to move? Why am I moving? Why am I leaving?
Yeah,
Why are they here? So, like, I'm going off the rails here a little bit, but as far as the fun, I think, yeah, there's even school to some extent during, and in your early grades, grammar school, elementary school, primary school, whatever you call it, you you're still kind of having fun. You remember, like, going to the schoolyard to play, or special sports you played at school, and their friends, holidays,
hmm,
birthday parties. You're a kid, you're happy. you know but I think a lot of it, from my perspective, is that everybody had the same values. There were,
yeah,
to be honest, Christian values were just the norm. They were the norm. Everybody had the same beliefs, same understandings, the same norms, the same ways of acting, thinking, behaving, and everything fit like a puzzle. And it was beautiful. And you didn't even realize it until Marxism and, Zionism and mass immigration and welfare state and
yeah,
degenerate
yeah,
movies
true.
and, you know this and that and the next and the next and the next. So because, like, my son's generation, they're by default, they're like depressed, just by default. And it's hard to watch. And you try and you try and you try, but, like, the world keeps beating them down and saying, no, there is no hope. Don't try. Just, like, go into your room, play your video games, blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
Don't be connected, don't try, don't think, don't study, don't read, don't pray. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Um.
work, whereas my parents didn't
So
have to do that. you know
yeah, I know what you mean. And there's a classic case of we you could leave your doors unlocked,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's high trust societies. I think
There
that's
you go.
that's what
There you
we
go.
we missed.
Yes, very much.
And well, when my parents split up, got divorced, we moved to quite a decent area anyway. So there is a sort of a level of high trust there. Um,
Hmm.
and so I don't notice it as much, but there are areas around, like the city, the main city of Nottingham, where I'm
Mm.
from, is
Okay. You're not from Kent? I'm kidding.
no, no. Uh, it's just got definitely progressively worse. But growing up, it was a pretty decent place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So the good old days. What would you say some of your fondest memories are, Donald?
Super quick thing I want to answer. Corey asked me, do you take apple pectin liquid or powder? I take pills, so I guess they're powdered. Um, so good memories, tons and tons of good memories. I grew up across the street from a park where, and when I say park, I mean, swing sets and jungle gyms and slides and teeter totters and sandbox and baseball diamonds. And every summer they would have, like, kids would get, like, teenagers would be hired by the town to come in. They had, like, a little t-shirt uniform, and they would run events, arts and
Mm-hmm.
crafts, kick the can, capture the flag, anything and everything. And so I grew up in like a very, very excellent social environment, where you're playing with kids of different ages, and everybody is, just kind of socializing and learning how to get along, how to play together,
Mm-hmm.
this, that, and the other thing. And it was just exquisite. And then that was also, like, comic book time, and things like that, where, like, once a day there would be one of the teenagers would be like, okay, I'm going up to the corner store to get some candy or pop or whatever the crap that we want to eat. And
Yeah.
and like he would take like an order, and then people would give him. In those days, you'd pay like, a couple quarters, whatever. Like, this stuff was cheap. There was, you could, any kid could scratch up some change for candy and stuff. And then, him or one or two of these teenagers would go up to the store, and you get all excited to come back. And they got like bags full of like
Wow.
all kinds of, and, just you name it, popsicles and Italian ice and, hard candies, soft candies, gum, baseball cards, what have you, and then you'd be like, okay, who got this one? And, oh, me. So it's, and that was one of the fun things. You know, and then for me, like the whole thing of like, when Dad came home from work, it was a big deal, like,
Yeah.
I would, as a little kid, when he would lay on the floor and read the newspaper, and I would lay on his back and look over his shoulder and look at it like this ocean of letters and words and pictures, and just like, what is this world of the adults where they watch, they care so much about the news, and stuff. And he was always like, as far as reading the paper and watching news on TV, he was very, very informed. And I honestly think that had like an impact or an influence on me where
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
today. Like, if he had the internet, holy crow, wow, that would have
I remember
opened up
the
a lot.
growing up. I was how old was I been? Maybe 10, 11 when the first
Hmm.
sort of the internet first came out and computers,
Okay.
and I used to get
Yeah.
1995. Yeah, about 12. Um, it was
Okay.
Windows 95, and you had Encyclopedia, and you put your CD in. It's literally
Mm. Okay.
it was the beginnings of sort of technology. But yeah, I think definitely pop culture was one of the biggest highlights of the good old days. Like you say,
Yeah.
everything was more homogenous, and that's something you definitely notice now that you didn't notice as a kid. I think kids today are growing up in a world where they feel like they don't belong anymore, white children, because of the this how society is towards them.
Yeah.
We used to learn about our own history in school. I used to learn about the Vikings, the Normans, the Vikings, the Saxons
Wow.
in
Wow.
schools growing up. It was our history. Um,
Yeah.
and I guess the
Yeah.
more foreigners have come in, the more it's had to cater to them. So yeah, I
Mm.
guess those were the good old days when you had cartoons and society that reflected who you were, and you didn't have to kind of really share that with anyone, so you could, you,
Mm.
I think it just lent to a more cohesive society, didn't it?
It definitely did. How do I mean, there were still wars and things going on.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
But it just, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I lived in the town that I grew up in. I would call that the American dream. It literally it had it all, and in many ways it's kind of still does. I mean, granted, the world is changing. Um, and people used to joke about, oh, you live in a bubble, and I'm like, I would love to live in a bubble again. I would love to go back. This is one of my biggest desires in life, is to get a time machine and go back and live that again. To me, heaven would be living in that and just not growing up and just having the same, my loving family, my good friends, good buddies, playing in the park, in the summertime, and, you know, just living life in such a way as that there was no fear and there was no anxiety about this and that. The internet is a Pandora's box. You do gain immense knowledge, and I've grown like exponentially from it. But of course, then there's all the demons that are in there as well.
Yeah, it's
Um,
a double-edged sword, isn't it? A lot of the
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of the things.
But I mean, even how do I say? So, like, how do I put this? I feel like in the '90s, that was the turning point. The
Yes,
'90s,
definitely.
everything kind of went. That's when everything sort of started getting dark. I feel like you had like hip hop was really early. Hip hop was not. terrible. It was just kind of urban
I
culture.
actually quite liked some of the earlier hip hop. To be honest, I went
Yeah,
through my
there's
what I would call it.
sure.
They used to call
I
it a
went through a
wigger.
phase.
I
I
was
went through a
probably
phase, you know.
up there
Anyway, whatever. The point I'm
with my
getting is
gangster
to
Tupac. I was like, wow.
okay. Well, that's just what my point I'm trying to make is that, like, you know, it used to be like in America, you'd see like the Bill Cosby show, and he was like this nice, happy, funny guy in a nice, normal, upper middle class suburban home, and ha 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 ha, you know, and then gradually it became like, you know, these films would come out with Boys to Men or, you know, like something in the hood, and it's just all gangster, gangster, kill, 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 and just that side of things started to mainstream. And then on the other side you've got Kurt Cobain and this sort of like, you know, like it's a type of punk rock that was cool for its time, but the dude ended up like killing himself. You know, he
Right.
had like a heroin issue, and he blah 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 blah. um you know, and what kind of a hero is that? What kind of an example is that? You know, and his music was just getting weirder and weirder
Is
and
that
like
Kurt Cobain?
rape. Yeah, like he has a song called "Rape Me." What the
Hmm.
fuck? Like what the like this was I was, believe it or not, I was actually on MTV once.
Really?
Well, when I lived in New York City, I was on lunch in the park near my job, and there was like MTV was going around live, just doing like quick interviews with people that, you know, the camera person and the VJ, and they're just like, we're live in New York City, and you know, what's your favorite music? Who's your favorite band right now? And boom, you know, here, answer the question, and just like for real quick little cuts that they would like, you know, whatever, it's
Uh-huh.
MTV. And I just happened to be one of the guys that they asked, and they were saying like, who do you hate, I guess, in music? And at the time I said Marilyn Manson. And I said, and the reason why I hate him is because he just has to keep outdoing himself with something weirder and more negative. And what are you going to do for a finale? You're going to hang yourself? And I like pulled my sunglasses off dramatically and looked into the camera when I said that. And they used that clip. Like, they're
Really?
like, wow. Because I mean, I did it dramatically on purpose because I know that's what they're looking for, not someone who goes, well, I like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, like they want something catchy and snappy and cool, you know. So like my friends were like, "Oh my god, I saw you on MTV," you know, that was a funny thing. But anyway, I don't know if someone can look that up. But anyway, I'm just
Yeah,
yammering
interesting.
on here. I'm
Interesting.
just jamming on ideas here. But yeah, I don't know. Shit just got darker and darker, and now it's just weird and gross and stupid and like fake everything. You know, it's just tough to find good entertainment. You know,
Yeah.
um, not to be like
It's
a boomer
I
or some
mean,
kind of thing like that.
yeah,
There's still good
yeah.
stuff out there, you know, but
I think there's definitely a lot of nostalgia though. Um, you know,
oh, I'm a big yeah.
I mean, most films that I like to watch contain some sort of past remnants of cultural
Mhm.
aspects to do with European
Yeah.
positivity or uh, you know
Mhm.
cultural aspects of the past. So I like to watch a lot of stuff like that. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to look back at different films and things. But I mean, for myself, I could just, you know, blather about those type of things. But I think that, you know, for the theme of the show, it's very much about how society was socially engineered to kind of collapse, to lose its positive values, to lose its core Christian values, to normalize all kinds of degeneracy.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah.
these like talk shows. You'd have these talk shows which would have like transsexuals on them and this and that, and you just like, you know, I don't know, just shock jocks. Who's
Wait.
Stern? What's the guy? The tall Jewish guy. Oh, I can't remember his freaking name.
Tom Green.
No, no. Well, no,
He,
he's New Yorker, tall, curly hair, Jew, glasses. I want to say Howard Stern. Howard Stern.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, totally. I just always talking about sex and pornography and weird garbage and da 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 da. And this stuff is just that was like, this is the new cool thing. Like Howard Stern was like what Joe Rogan is today in a way, only much more shock jockey.
Right.
If that
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So I don't know. It just to me that's garbage. I mean, what about Bing Crosby or guys that were wholesome and cool.
Well, Bing Crosby. So I said Bill Crosby.
Yeah, I'm going way back to like my parents' generation of like people
Right.
who
Yeah.
not Bill.
Some
not
of those
Bill
films
Crosby.
are actually great, weren't they? Some of them
Yeah,
classics.
it's just everything was sort of kind of playful and innocent back then.
Yeah.
I know that people can sort of criticize that. They might be like, oh, well, you're whatever, you're on a date or something. But it's really, it's a big deal, when in the world it's okay to have like weird, creepy garbage on TV all the time. Queer eye for the straight guy or this or that. Like this is
well, that's just the
all these
conditioning, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, like reality TV, the so-called reality TV shows really got dark and strange, and
I mean, I used to watch a lot of that as a kid, though. I remember there was one called what was it called? What was it called? Ibiza Uncovered and stuff like that, and I remember watching them and it was quite very crude. But as a kid, so you kind of just like watch it and think, and then you go to school and you talk about it and laugh and
right. Well, you eat what you're fed. You know what I mean? And they force feed this garbage. So Charles has a question. He says, "What are some of your favorite '80s films?" You want to start on that?
Yes, that's a good one. Some of the best films that come to mind for me were the Rocky series. I think for me the all-time kind of top. They're up there definitely with the Rocky films. Rocky, and I guess later on stuff like the Matrix. But yeah, Rocky's up there. Aliens is
80s.
great.
Yeah,
film.
Aliens is phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
And they spring to mind as being some of the best. But then you've got other stuff, the like Last Action Hero and Arnold Schwarzenegger type blockbusters, and
that was his big period.
They wasn't so CGI led, were they?
No.
Goonies, films like that were just, Goonies had a little bit of the sort of multi-ethnic kind of tones creeping in there, but I mean it wasn't so overt and it didn't push a political message, and you don't mind stuff that isn't trying to push political messages. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it's kind of that ratio is kind of normal for the time, I guess. You expect that to a certain point, and so yeah, they were some of my favourite films growing up. I was quite big into Disney films as well, and a little bit of a soft child at times.
Oh, sure. I don't know if Excalibur. I think that was in the 80s. That's I think a John Foreman film. Excalibur.
Yeah, I think
Foreman,
so.
Pretty sure. The Conan films were phenomenal. I thought.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't fit in very well in this regard because I'm not actually a big 80s guy. Like I don't have a huge nostalgia for the 80s. Not that, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that I like in it, but I just don't seem to have the whatever it is that everybody else has. They're like, to me, I think of like the 50s as more of an era when we were golden. Like that was when
there are some
really
good 50s films and older films, but they're very,
and
they're quite slow.
I'm not that old.
They're hard.
I'm not that old. I'm just saying like that was more of a pure kind of period of time.
They're quite hard to watch, I think.
Say again. I'm sorry.
Some of the older films, they're very good, but we've been conditioned to have such a short attention span, I think, nowadays.
True. That's a
good point. So they're a bit harder to watch.
I feel like the 70s was the best era for music. That's my bias.
How old are you? I don't actually know.
I'm not really good. I'm not really good with math, so I don't know if I can answer that question.
You have to do some sort of
I
trigonometry or
don't.
something to get your
Yeah,
age. Is that far
I
gone?
don't have a I don't have a calculator handy at the moment, so
Yeah,
I can't really
it's
divulge
okay.
that. But anyway, but 80s movies
But
too.
you were born in the
Oh, not
70s or 80s. You can give me that one.
um. Well, like I said, I get confused about these things. So I'm trying to.
Okay.
What is it? Blade Runner. Blade Runner came out in the 80s. That was extraordinary. That was phenomenal. There's a movie called Legend with Tom Cruise. It's a Ridley Scott film, sort of before he became big, and
Okay.
it's just like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. I forget the guy's name who played the devil in that. Something Curry. What else was fun? I don't know. I'm trying to think. Meatballs. You guys remember Meatballs with Bill
Meatballs.
Murray? Bill Murray.
No, but one of my
He's
favorite
basically
meatballs. No,
he
sorry,
runs a
carry on.
camp, like a summer camp, and then there was the one. There was a lot of movies like John Belushi, the Blues Brothers,
Oh yeah, that was great. I love that
SNL.
film.
Yeah,
The
that was
twins.
the
Uh,
Twins is with Arnold Schwarzenegger, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, and that Danny DeVito, I think.
yeah. I think so. Um, yeah. Who else was there?
How about you guys? Charles says The Thing was awesome. So, as you guys
Horror film.
know, hey, look at my icon. Who is that? It's Snake Plissken from Escape from New York. Okay, there's an excellent 80s film for you right there. I never actually saw the follow up. There was another movie by John Carpenter called Escape from L.A., and I never really saw it.
One
But
of my favorite childhood films was called
yeah.
Spaceballs, and it had
Oh, sure.
Rick Moranis in it. Um,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, one thing, a lot of there were some good films that sort of Jews tend to do make, in the
What's his
past.
name? I forget the name of that film director. He
Steve,
did Blazing Saddles, which was
um,
another very popular film. His name's slipping my mind
I
right now.
remember that one.
Yeah,
Uh,
but he did Spaceballs as well.
yes,
I just don't
okay,
remember his
right.
name.
But yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite childhood films. I loved that film. It was just so funny, and it wasn't politically correct. There was the bearded lady, for example, who today
Mm.
just wouldn't fly, because she goes,
Oh,
"Is
I see.
this scene at the end where
Oh,
they're trying to escape, and it's like you've got the
yeah.
voiceover. It's like we're gonna malfunction in 10 seconds because they hit the wrong button, and they're all like,
Right, right,
"What are we gonna
right, right.
do?" And it's like
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
spoof of space
Sure. Of Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
there's
yeah.
this woman with a beard, like a bloke. It was a bloke, and tries to get in this pod, and they're all fighting, scattering to get the pods to escape.
Right,
And Rick Moranis is there as Darth Vader with a massive helmet. And
right.
he
It's
finally gets in one, and he's like trying to put his seatbelt on, and he's like, what? And he turns around, and there's this massive gorilla, and it's like, oh, that was it. But then there's this other one he tries to fight, and she goes, and he turns around, and she goes, "What are you?" He goes, I forget. I'm paraphrasing now, but he goes, "I'm the bearded lady. What are you, some kind of freak?" It's like I just wouldn't fly today.
Airplane. You know the movie Airplane? That
Yeah,
was
yeah, that was good. Planes,
smash hit.
Trains, and Automobiles with
Yes.
Steve Martin was pretty good. He had a good stint
Oh,
with his
the
comedy
the
films.
the jerk. That was a big one right there. I think that was the one that put him on the radar. I think
Right, right. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he did some good stuff. I think.
Mel Brooks is the director
Mel
name.
Brooks.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
that was it. Mel
thank you,
Brooks.
thank you, Seven Serpents for saving us right there.
That said,
Thank you.
but yeah, you can see like like how the crude elements creep in over time.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, still they were by today's standard they're very tame, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I really just have a soft spot for the 80s films, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
Rocky
it's hit
definitely
and
up
miss.
there.
It's hit and miss
Yeah.
for me. There's things I love and things, but I'm a movie snob to begin with,
Right.
so like I just am super touchy about like it's got to be good, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I don't mind entertaining films or whatever, but I don't like films that sort of insult my intelligence. That are
How do you
like
mean?
just oh, there's so much entertainment out there that is just really, really dumbed down. It's like for adult children in a sense,
Okay.
where like everything you can essentially predict everything that's going to happen. The characters are all canned, the dialogue is canned. It's sort of like, okay, we're going to force you to have an emotion, by
Ah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. Canned laughter
you
is
know,
annoying. It's like if you're using
yeah.
canned laughter, there's something wrong, isn't there?
Well, like for
Or something
example, like
lacking.
they killed his mother. Now he must get revenge. Shut up. Come on. Like give me a freaking break, man. I mean, this is dumb stuff. Like, revenge stories.
But
Boring.
some of the cheese was fun though about the 80s. I think that in some ways that helped define the era. Like
Oh yeah.
the classic line from Arnold Schwarzenegger, "I'll be back,"
I'll be back. Oh
or
yeah,
Dolph
Terminator.
Lundgren when he's like, "I will break you." It's
That's
like
great.
it's just cheesy, but it works, you know.
Did we talk about Dolph Lundgren? He dated who's that weird black musician actress Grace Slick. I'm like, you're a freaking Aryan god, and you're dating this like
Yeah,
alien creature that is like
it's
ugly
tragic
as
when
hell. Like that's
it
so weird. It's so
yeah
weird.
it
Yeah.
does. It is sad when you see. I mean, he's like a full on Chad, isn't he? You
Yeah,
know.
like I said, Aryan god. I can only think. I don't even know. Who knows what he was thinking? I don't know how that's attractive, but I guess I'm
Mm,
the crazy one. Yes.
yeah, there we are. We are
Yeah.
getting there. I'm slowly building up this image. I've decided to utilize um, basically a composite of AI
Mm-hmm.
generated images to get the elements
Okay.
to build up the image separately. I guess it's got a bit more input. It's less cheating, but
Okay.
yeah, it means I'll be able to probably spend another one
Mm-hmm.
hour, 2 hours max on this, and then I'll be finished.
Yeah.
And that's
I'm
that.
actually gonna. I'm actually gonna have to probably wrap it up pretty soon. I actually
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah. No,
a
same. I
work
was thinking
related
the
thing
same.
today. Yeah. But uh, it's fun to go down nostalgia lane. I love nostalgia. Some people criticize that, but to me, it's a beautiful thing.
I think nostalgia is something which it is a bit of a cope. It's definitely a cope.
It can be. It can be.
Can be,
Yeah.
yeah. When you, but it's a necessary cope, I think, because it's the beginnings of a whole host of feelings by which at least
Hmm.
you're recognizing a love, and you're starting to appreciate at least what you had, and I think that's the beginning
Yeah,
of change.
I agree.
Um,
That's very wise.
yeah,
That's good. That's a good point.
and
Um,
nostalgia is rife at the moment. So
Indeed, indeed.
yeah,
Well, on that note, let us retire this marvelous show
yes,
with
yes,
this
yes.
amazing group of wonderful friends in the chat. Um, any announcements quickly before we go?
Well, I would just like to thank people for tuning in today. We always
Okay.
appreciate your, your support, and
Hmm.
we enjoy doing the streams. So yeah, thanks guys for tuning in, and there is some ongoing, always basically touching on from last week. Uh, we are still doing the Help a Brother Out campaign. If you look at my last video, you can see in the link. the description. There's a link to the campaign. We're doing an official launch of it through the American Freedom Party, I believe, who will
Yeah.
be giving all the details. And then at some point we're gonna do a podcast. So we're slowly weaning this in, and we'll
Yeah.
have all the
Yeah.
details. But yeah,
Yeah.
look out for that. And in general,
Okay.
thanks for tuning in, guys, and stay strong. And I
Yep.
hope we didn't get dropped too many black pills today, and at least a few white pills at the end, like sweet Tic
Yes.
Tacs, minty fresh breath.
Right. Minty fresh.
Minty fresh, yeah, something to go to
Indeed.
sleep with a smile on your face
All right.
with.
Marvelous. Marvelous. All right. God bless you all. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you next week on Patriotic Art Live.